Well, good evening. I'm Alan Jackson, and welcome to Nashville. It's a new day in the nation's capital. President Trump hit the ground running, or should I say, sprinting down Pennsylvania Avenue. Ever since he was elected, more has been added to the agenda he wants and needs to tackle. But at this point, the Democrats are still treading water with the same instincts that the Biden-Harris administration used. Biden spent his final days struggling to promote his legacy, including his Oval Office address, and to this outsider watching the speech, most of it seemed delusional to me. In his speech, he said Americans must pay their fair share of taxes. That's with tax-avoiding Hunter next to him. Well, I checked the statistics. The top 1% of taxpayers pay a little more than 40% of the taxes. The top 10% pay more than 76%, with the bottom 50% paying just about 2%. Pay your fair share seems more like political rhetoric than true reality. The new CNN poll shows that 61% call the Biden presidency a failure. Kamala Harris rationalized her loss. She said, "When we fight, we win." More rhetoric. Kamala Harris wants to run for the California governor, we're told, but she's done very little when the fires have broken out. In fact, she asked the fire victims to be patient while they have nowhere to live and they've lost everything. Biden claims he left the country stronger and more prosperous and more secure. I think he's reading his own press. Well, with that, we're joined by the veteran national political analyst, Bob Cusack. Welcome back, Bob.
Hey, Alan, how are you?
We are very well in this new year. You know, at this point, I'm not surprised at Joe Biden's finale, but to claim stronger, more prosperous, and secure, this cements his legacy is not only out of touch, but he's dishonest. He's used to seeing whatever he says printed without any question. But do you agree that that's not going to stand up to the test of time?
No, I mean, I agree, Alan. I mean, history is not going to be kind to Joe Biden. 7 out of 10 people, depending on what poll you're looking at, basically we're saying that country's on the wrong track under the Biden-Harris administration. So obviously Trump wants to turn that around. But I think that's why they struggled during the campaign. They were very defensive about the economy, didn't show a lot of empathy that we saw from Bill Clinton many years ago. And that's a big part of the reason, I think, and obviously Trump ran a very good campaign, why Trump won easily.
Well, perhaps bigger than any single issue, you've spoken of the significant shift in voter sentiment. Mr. Trump has unprecedented backing from a new group of voters across parties and demographics. What do you think we're looking at long term?
I think it's a real opportunity for the Republican Party to continue to branch out. You mentioned, the fires in California, which obviously is going to take forever to rebuild. But there's a lot of people in California not happy with their leaders. Mm-hmm. So Republicans have an opportunity, and Trump has started it. This is not your father's or even grandfather's Republican Party. This is a new party, and they branched out with minorities and blue collar workers. And Democrats are nervous about what is ahead as far as right now. Now, that said, Trump has a lot of power, and every president has their difficult times. But right now, he's riding high.
Well, from my experience, most elected officials will only act if they feel the force of the voters. Translation, the threat of losing their seat in the next election. Right. Do you think that any of the deep state Washington veterans are seeing the reality of what the rest of the country showed them in November?
I think so to some degree. Now, obviously, there are going to be some people who are going to fight Trump no matter what. But I do sense that we've seen it on immigration policy where Democrats are backing off. That is something that I think Trump is very strong on. Energy policy. Taxes are going to be tougher just because of the small majorities Republicans have. And I think that's going to take longer, probably right up until Christmas to get done. It will get done, but there'll be a lot of deal making there. But overall, I think, Democrats are still nursing their wounds. And honestly, I haven't seen them change their tune. We've seen Republicans learn from elections in the past. Haven't seen that from Democrats, at least not yet.
Well, by all accounts, the progressive leadership in California contributed to the vast devastation from the wildfires. Gavin Newsom and the Los Angeles mayor steered money intended for the firefighters to some of their pet DEI and woke projects. Do you think that any of the country's liberals will begin considering crossing the aisle, having witnessed such bad government decision-making?
That's something to watch. Definitely throughout 2025. Senator Fetterman, Democrat from Pennsylvania, he's met with Trump, and he's certainly changed his tune from when he got first elected. But I don't think a lot of other Democrats have learned. I mean, people want things to get done. They want problems to be solved. As far as Newsom's political future, I mean, honestly, a lot of Democrats were eyeing him maybe in 2028. I don't see it. I didn't see it before, and I definitely don't see it now because of that mismanagement. And obviously there's going to be investigation after investigation. That's not going to be good for Newsom or Karen Bass, the LA mayor.
You know, a lot of the DEI programs are being scaled back or set aside. Do you believe there's a real change in ideology, or are they just relabeling things in the current climate?
Listen, I think the Democratic Party's got to do some soul searching. What are they for? Years ago, maybe 2006, when they won back control of Congress, when President George W. Bush, his numbers were tanking, they talked about the middle class a lot, and they got away from that. And certainly Trump, I think, capitalized on that. And that's why Republicans not only won the White House, but won everything and have control of the House and the Senate. So this is a time for governing. Governing is harder than campaigning. And we saw that with honestly, with Joe Biden. He had COVID that helped him. He didn't have to be on the campaign trail in 2020. But governing was very difficult for Biden and Harris, and the voters, they elected an old president, but a new president.
Well, another potential candidate for the next cycle is President Trump's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump. You've talked about how well she could run in Florida, having done a very effective job as co-chair of the Republican National Committee. She sounds ready.
I would be honored, Todd, to serve as the next senator from my state right now. I've lived here for 3.5 years, of Florida. Absolutely.
Bob, tell us what you think is coming.
I think Lara Trump is very talented. She did a great job as co-chair of the Republican Party, and I think she's got a very bright future. And really, I think there's no limit. And listen, if she's going to run for office and have the MAGA Trump world behind her, which of course she would, she's going to be tough to beat, whether that's in a primary or in a general election. She is one to watch. She's ambitious, she's smart, and I think she's got an incredibly bright future.
Well, let's take a short break, and while we do, consider sending me an email with your thoughts on this discussion. Send it to comments at alanjacksonnow.com, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end of the show. We'll be right back. We're back now with a man who's had his eye on Washington for many years, and he knows well how the town works. With the deal between Israel and Hamas playing itself out, it's worth noting that none of this got done until Mr. Trump threatened to end it all with a big show of force. Yet even as the Biden team was winding down, Joe Biden wanted to claim credit for the ceasefire. When he was asked if Trump contributed to it happening, he asked if the reporter was joking. Is he that out of touch with reality, Bob?
Well, listen, Alan, let's think, and just let's play the speculation game. Let's say Harris had defeated Trump. Do you think that this deal would have gotten done? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. Trump can be unpredictable, but that is also, some people say that's a weakness. In a lot of ways, it's a strength, especially when you're dealing with foreign policy. So I definitely deserve, well, first of all, it wasn't a joke. It's a valid question to ask the president. And the president is wrong. Trump deserves most of the credit. I think there's no doubt about it. Biden deserves a little bit. Trump, most of it.
Well, let's move to the immigration problem. The Democrats are already trying to paint President Trump as someone who will break up migrant families when he sends those who are here illegally back home, trying to create a sympathetic narrative despite the drugs, the crimes, the murders, and the money being spent to house the millions who are here illegally. When the evictions begin, do you think we'll get any truthful reporting on it?
Well, it's interesting. I think the media has changed its tune somewhat. I mean, I'm not saying they've completely reversed themselves 180 degrees, but in the first Trump term, there was a lot of gotcha playing by the media, and that's why the ratings for the media are really an all-time low. I do think they're going to be more responsible. Will they be responsible? No, I think they'll maybe start out a little responsible, and then the smugness probably returns as far as the mainstream media. So, and listen, I think it's going to be Trump's plan is to first go after criminals who need to be deported. And listen, I've talked to a lot of independents, Democrats, and Republicans. They all agree with that. So how can you criticize that? I'm sure you're going to find some criticism of it. There's no doubt about it. But I think if they start out that way, that will give them some momentum to do what they do next.
Pam Bondi, the nominee for the Department of Justice, spoke of the extraordinary dangers from the thousands of people who've come here illegally. They're producing fentanyl, trafficking children, and young Chinese men spying on our military bases. Listen to how she sees her job.
If confirmed as the next Attorney General of the United States, my overriding objective will be to return the Department of Justice to its core mission of keeping Americans safe and vigorously prosecuting criminals. And that includes getting back to basics: gangs, drugs, terrorists, cartels, our border, and our foreign adversaries.
She certainly had no trouble pushing back on the Democrat attacks.
She did very well. There is no doubt about it. I mean, she was respectful to a degree, but at the same time, she also pushed back on Democratic senators when they were playing their own gotcha games. Listen, I think Pam Bondi is going to do very well. She's going to be confirmed. There's no doubt about it. And her confidence really was on display. And I think most of the Trump nominees have done very well in their testimony.
Are there any of the nominees you're worried about getting approved?
Well, initially I thought Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon was going to be tough to get through. I still think it's going to be a battle, but he did well. I think he's going to get confirmed right now, though it's going to be close. And the other one to watch is Tulsi Gabbard. I think RFK Jr. Is going to get through, and then others like Marco Rubio, they're going to sail. He may get, who knows, 80, 90 votes. But I think if maybe one falls by the wayside, but I don't think that hurts Trump. Matt Gaetz withdrew his nomination. That didn't hurt Trump. The media loved it, but at the same time, Trump has momentum, and he needs to really do well in his second term, Alan. The first term started off with Obamacare. That did not go well. I think his team is very strong. Susie Wiles, I think, is a great chief of staff. I think his second term, his first 100 days, is going to be much better than his first 100 days in 2017.
Well, President Trump's last term ended with COVID disrupting nearly everything. Now that he has a much better idea of how Washington works, how do you think he'll do in these first 2 years? He set a pretty high bar for himself.
He did, and some of the promises, like getting rid of the Department of Education, that's going to be tough because you need 60 votes in the Senate to get that. They don't have 60 Republican votes. But on immigration and energy, and that's what you want to do, Alan. You want to divide the other party. The party that's united usually is the party that's winning, and we've seen, Republicans divided. Now Democrats are divided, especially on immigration and energy. And I think it would be wise for Trump to start with those issues before he gets to taxes. And put Democrats on defense, just like they've, passed the Laken-Riley Act. A lot of Democrats didn't like that before, but all of a sudden, you saw some conversions because Trump has the power, and they're concerned about their own seats.
Well, Bob Cusack, thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Alan. Really appreciate it.
Stay in touch as the year unfolds. We'll need your insight to help us navigate.
Thanks.
In a moment, I'll have some thoughts of my own about how we can move the country forward in a more positive way. And later, your emails. We'll be right back. Today, we're at a pivot point in our nation's history. One administration has left and a new administration has arrived. We as Christians have an assignment, I believe, first of all, to pray. 1 Timothy 2, verse 1 says, I urge you that first of all, that petitions, prayers, and intercession and thanksgiving be made for all people, for kings and all those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. Let's pray that God would give wisdom to our leaders who are making decisions on our behalf, whether you voted for them or not. May our leaders not make decisions that oppose God's purposes. In this new season of opportunity, let's ask the Lord to reveal to us our own assignment. We can't simply sit on the sidelines and watch. We have to be engaged. We have to be willing to tell the truth at our kitchen table, in our family systems, with our friends. You see, if we receive the mercy, kindness, and grace of God, and then we respond by going back to our familiar negative patterns, then we'll face the judgment of God. Our lives, our families, our communities will suffer. My prayer for us is that we would stand together in unity under the authority of Almighty God and make decisions in the days ahead that would enable the blessings of God to be extended to us, to our children, and to our grandchildren. We can't imagine that what we have is a political problem, folks. Politicians didn't make the problem. Our own hearts turning away from Almighty God, choosing ourselves first, created the problem. The politicians just reflect it. So now we're in a new season. Let's make the changes, and they'll be reflected in Washington. If we'll do that, I promise you there are more reasons for hope than for despair. Well, I'll be back with your emails in just a moment. Stay with us. Thank you so much for taking the time to send us an email. Your thoughts and perspectives and opinions, they're important to us. Emily writes, I just wanted to say how much I enjoyed the interview with Brad Arnold. I was never a Three Doors Down fan, but I think I might be now. Mr. Arnold's testimony was thoughtful, inspiring, honest, and timely. What an encouraging reminder to lead with our faith and let the Lord do the rest. Thank you. Emily, I agree. Brad took his faith to work with him. What makes that remarkable is he's the lead singer in a rock and roll band. I watched the video clips. He would stand on stage in Madison Square Garden and tell the audience that came to hear a rock concert about his faith. If he can do that in that environment, I think most of us can find a way to take our faith to work with us and begin to lead with our faith in some new environments this year. It'll make a difference. Judy B. wrote, God bless you, Pastor. I've had to really work on not hating for this past 4 years. I've been relatively successful until today, when President Biden came out to take credit for the ceasefire and the hostage release in Israel. Biden tried to block Israel at every step. The blatant evil from this administration knows no bounds. Well, I would have two comments, Judy. Number one, I'm pretty certain that the hostages and their families could care less who takes the credit. They just want to see their family members and friends released from that horrible torment. So I wouldn't spend any stress on Biden and the victory lap that he would like to take. And more importantly, we got to forgive. It's a choice, not an emotion. Let's make the decision that we're going to forgive. It brings a better future to us every time. And then Anita from Tennessee, she said, I listen every night to Now. I so enjoy and agree with you and the guest. Now is true journalism, in my opinion. We're really encouraged by your program and WOC programs, praying you continue. Well, thank you, Anita. I appreciate your willingness to watch. If you're not in the habit, I hope you'll set your DVR to record the program. If you missed that, you can go to our YouTube channel and see every episode of Alan Jackson Now. They'll post today's program this evening, so you don't ever have to miss an episode, whether you're at home or not. Your viewership and telling your friends about our program, that's what'll keep us on the air. Well, if you haven't yet, take a moment to send your emails to comments@alanjacksonnow.com. Your feedback and your questions, they do a lot to shape our show. Well, I'm Alan Jackson, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.